What's going on, everybody? Jay Lawson here, the Black Statistician. And today I'm going to be talking to you about something I'm sure you've heard a bunch of times all over the internet, and that is the crazy thing known as Bitcoin. I'm going to go over what it is, what a cryptocurrency is, what the blockchain technology is, and why people are jumping into it. I'm going to let you know how many people are into it now, what they predict, and also give you an opportunity to determine if it's going to be something that you would want to do or not. Because over the next year, you're definitely going to be hearing a lot of people talking about it and saying and trying to get you into it. But it may not be for you, you know. If you're not an investor or somebody who's interested in investing into the future, it's definitely not for you. If you're not somebody who likes to take really high risk for really high rewards, it's not something that you should be investing in. Also, if you just don't have your emergency fund set up and things like that, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. So, for example, like if you came to me and said, "Hey, I have $1,000 that I want to invest," I would not, and that was all you had to your name or whatever, I would not recommend investing in stocks or mutual funds or Bitcoin. What I would do is I would put that in a savings account for an emergency that came up, you know, like if you had a flat tire or something. But if you do have your emergency fund set up and you have some extra money that you want to consider investing, then maybe this is for you. And what's different about this video than others is, you know, I focus on the Black community. I mean, obviously, if you're not Black and you're listening to this, you can benefit from the information as well, as I've done quite a bit of extensive research on Bitcoin. I am an investor in it. I am not a financial advisor, so take this information as entertainment value. But I am a statistician. I know how to look at trends. I work in risk management in the military, and I have determined that a small portion of my portfolio is invested in Bitcoin, and it has been for about I'd say maybe almost a year now, and I've made about 10 times my investment so far, and I expect to make a lot more. So what we want to do is we want to get right into this and just say, hey, what exactly is this Bitcoin thing anyway? So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is a digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units and currency and verify the transfer of funds, operating independently of a central bank. So in layman's terms, what does that mean? It means that it's an online unit of currency that you can use as a peer-to-peer way to send funds from one person to another. For example, if you have a friend that's in India and you're in the United States, it's difficult to do a transfer from his bank account or her bank account in India to your bank account in the United States. But so there are companies out there that are kind of like a hub for cryptocurrency transfer, where you can move money, where you can convert, say, $100 to Bitcoin and then send the Bitcoin to the other person via a Bitcoin wallet, or I'm sorry, a cryptocurrency wallet. There are some people that use it like that. Others that just invest in the cryptocurrency industry. So if you're going to be an investor, what I would ask you to do is decide if you want to be an active user of the Bitcoin technology, or if you just plan to be an investor. An investor would be someone who buys a percentage of Bitcoin now, or a portion of Bitcoin, and then decides that, they're just going to hold it and hope that it becomes worth a lot more later. An active user would be somebody who has their Bitcoin set up, and they get their Bitcoin now, and they actually buy things in Bitcoin, and maybe even look into the other cryptocurrencies and things like that. Now, there are thousands of cryptocurrencies, and the reason why there's so many is because Bitcoin, which was started in about I think just under 10 years ago, has done so well in 10 years. It's the last time I checked today, it's at $6,800 for one Bitcoin. And it was $600, or I'm sorry, $700 at the beginning of the year. So we've seen a massive increase, tenfold increase in Bitcoin just this year alone. That's why you're seeing all these other cryptocurrencies pop up. And these guys, a lot of them are in the, $1 range, $2 range, and some of them are doing very well. Some aren't. If you really want to dive into the different exchanges and things and do that, you can become an active trader of cryptocurrency. But this is more geared towards a casual person that says, hey, I want to be part of this and I don't want to miss out. So I want you to understand what you're either getting into, avoiding, or somewhere in between. And I think that our community needs more things like this, because I know from interviewing a lot of my soldiers, the 20 or so people that I know that are in cryptocurrency, the majority of them are not black people. And there's a big opportunity here. I mean, it may do very well, it may not, but in life, you want to invest in things that could do very well later. And the cryptocurrency market is an industry that it gives the average person a chance to become a millionaire pretty easily. Potentially, a lot easier than, playing the lottery or going to Vegas or something like that, or blackjack. What do I mean by that? Okay, we said a Bitcoin right now is $6,800, right? So let's say you bought two right now. That would be, $13,600. If the value continues to increase at the rate that it increased last year, next year, your Bitcoin will be valued at about $68,000 per coin. So you'll have two. So you'll literally have, 130,000 and change from your $12,000, $13,000 investment. So that's a pretty big gain. And like I said, that's not impossible, because that's exactly what happened this year with the rate that it increased. Now the 100-day moving average on Bitcoin over the last 100 days, it's starting to slow down a little bit. But if you look at the history of the chart, you'll see that Bitcoin has actually different periods of time where it'll level off and then it'll increase again. So let's look at the chart of Bitcoin over time. As you can see, there's consistent, obviously consistent gains. It has periods where it peaks and then it crashes. Some of the crashes are due to, like the crash that was in, I believe, 2013. It was due to China banning cryptocurrencies in their in certain exchange traded markets, where their financial institutions could not invest in Bitcoin, and that made it. There was a period of time where it went from $1,300 all the way down to $100, but it recovered and it went back up to, that value within, very quickly, within a year or 2, 3 years, something like that. And then it continued to go up ever since. So For example, a month ago, I was looking at my Bitcoin and I think it was like $4,000. And now now it's in the 6,000 range. It actually peaked at 7,800. And that was due to the fork that was supposed to happen in around this time, actually, that never ended up happening with the SegWit fork that got canceled. And as a result, when it didn't happen, the value spiked to 7,800 and then it went right back down to 7,000. Now, I think the actual support value for Bitcoin right now is about 6,500. So if you get in anywhere around 6,500, I think you're right at the support value. I've looked at probably 10 different analyst recommendations on where the support is and how the history of Bitcoin has been. And it's showing that 6,500 is about support. So it's a little over support right now. But at any moment, I expect that it could potentially go into the 7,000 range and get support there because it's been leveling off for the last 2 weeks or so. And if we look at the history, we do have these spikes and then we have a level off and then another spike and then a level off. So obviously nothing is going to just continuously go up forever, but, it isn't the right time to get in when the spike happens. What you want to do is let it come down, settle down, and then get in. And then when it spikes again, you make that gain on the spike. If you want to swing trade, which means you're getting in and getting out, that's very risky. So it's like taking a risky investment and making it even more risky. But you could try to predict when the spikes happen, get in when the troughs happen, and then get out when the spikes happen. But a more practical application for the average investor would be to just buy a portion of a Bitcoin and then just hold it. For example, if you would have bought $100 worth of Bitcoin in 2000 when it first started, 2010, 11, whenever that was, you would be a millionaire right now. And that's crazy on a $100 investment. If you bought $100 worth at the beginning of this year, you would have $1,000 right now worth of Bitcoin. And why is this important? Now, Bitcoin, unlike the US dollar or the yen or the ruble or the peso or whatever, Bitcoin is not a depreciating currency. The US dollar depreciates every year, because of a thing called inflation. Inflation's about 2% a year, meaning the cost of goods and services goes up by that every year. For example, a gallon of milk, if it's $2 this year, next year, if it increases by 2%, it's going to be $2.04 next year. So in 50 years, the price of a gallon of milk could be, I can't do that math in my head, but it's somewhere around it's going to have doubled a couple of times. It might be $8 or something. Therefore, if your money just sits in cash, it's going to lose value over time. The worst thing you can do is, about 10 years ago, when I was talking to one of my buddies and he had just saved up $100,000. He was one of my military buddies. And he's like, I saved up $100,000. And I was like, man, that's awesome. What are you going to do? Invest? He said, no, my wife won't let me invest it. So 4 years ago, which would be like almost 6 years later, I was like, how are your investments doing? He's like, I'm not really much of an investor. I was like, you had all that money back then. He's like, yeah, I still have it. I still have my $100,000. I haven't really been saving that much lately. So he literally had that $100,000 just sitting there for 6 years. So that $100,000 lost value over those 6 years. That's the ultimate safe play so that you can guarantee you don't lose your money, which actually you are losing money because every year it's like part of your money is burning up, because that 100,000 in 10 years is actually only going to be worth about 90,000 at the time. You know what I mean? Because of inflation, it can only buy $90,000 worth of stuff. So for example, the average household income now is 52,000. If you have 52,000 now it can buy a lot less than what you could buy with 52,000 in say 1980. If you made 52,000 in 1980, you were pretty wealthy because you could get a nice home for less than 100 grand, you know. Whereas now, you know, that same home might be 3 times as much. Okay, so I digress, but let me get back on topic. So what I want to do is we looked at the, so the price of the Bitcoin is actually increasing over time. And one thing I want to let you all know is that if you invest in Bitcoin, don't listen to these people that say, hey, don't invest in Bitcoin because Bitcoin is, you can't afford a Bitcoin. It's $6,800 or you missed your chance. Bitcoin has been increasing about the same rate every year on average, about 1,000%. I think it's 1,000-something% this year, 1,000-something% last year. You do not have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You know, you can buy a portion of a Bitcoin. You can actually buy 1/1000th of a Bitcoin if you want to. You know, you can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin, and scaling will be the exact same if you, with your money. For example, if the value of a Bitcoin doubles and you invested $100, your $100 is going to double. So if you tell me I'm not going to invest in Bitcoin because I can't afford $6,800, then I'm going to tell you, why don't you put $68 in Bitcoin so that when it doubles, you make $136. You know what I mean? Whatever you can afford to invest, if you want to invest, you can invest. So don't let these negative people tell you not to invest, because if we get like 10 years from now and you see the value of a Bitcoin's $1 million, you're going to remember that you listened to this video and you're going to be kicking yourself. But if you put $100 in and it goes to, you know, some astronomical number compared to the 100, you know, you're going to be happy you did that, right? Now, what's a safe amount that you want to invest? A safe play, from what I've seen, you never want to invest more than 5% of your money in any one high risk thing. So let's say you have $1,000 to invest. You probably only want to invest about $50 into Bitcoin. And then you want to put the other money somewhere else. Like you can invest in stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, whatever. You wouldn't want to put $1,000 into Bitcoin unless you want an extremely high volatile, high risk, extremely high reward or high loss portfolio. Because if you put that $1,000 into Bitcoin, you know, you're buying what, 1/7 of a Bitcoin. And then if that Bitcoin goes to $1 million, you know, your account's going to be worth a little under 200,000. So, you know, you could play it that way. But if the value of a Bitcoin goes to zero, then you've pretty much lost that whole $1,000. Now, the way that I used to invest when I started was high risk, high reward. And what would happen is I would put like $5,000 into a business idea, lose it, 5,000 into another business idea, lose that, 5,000 into another business idea. That would make 50,000. Take 5,000 of that, put in another business, lose it, 5,000 into another, lose it, 5,000 into another, make 200,000. That's pretty much like the history of how my money's been. Very, very high risk, very, very high rewards. Some of the things I've done are way more riskier than Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin's a little safer if you're just doing a buy and hold play, long run or short run. For example, some people just say they want to get into Bitcoin and try to double their money real quick. You know, others, they want to just buy it because they want to be part of history if something big happens. So they put some nominal amount, you know, $50, $100, $1,000, whatever's a small amount to you, into it, and they just kind of set it and forget it. So that down the road, if somebody says, hey, have you seen Bitcoin? It's $500,000 now. Then they can be like, oh, great, I bought $200 worth. Let's see how much I have. And then they look and they see they have like $20,000 worth of Bitcoin. You know, that's kind of my play. I have several Bitcoins. And if we look at the total number of Bitcoins, let me, because I digress. So we were talking about deflationary units of currency, right? Like how the dollar loses value. The reason why that's different than Bitcoin is because there's only a finite number of Bitcoins. there's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be made, ever. And they're not made, they're mined, kind of like gold. So a lot of people consider Bitcoin as digital gold because you know how gold keeps its value or goes up over time usually. Silver, same thing. Bitcoin is kind of like digital gold. So if you're putting your money into Bitcoin, it's like you're putting your money into a digital gold, where if the dollar loses value, that Bitcoin's still going to hold its value against it and go up. And it can do that because there's only a finite amount. So for example, if you buy one Bitcoin or 1/2 of one Bitcoin or 1/100th of one Bitcoin, and you know there's only 21 million that are ever going to be made, guess what? If everybody starts using Bitcoin, you have a pretty big portion of the currency. So imagine if there was only, $21 million out there and you had $1, for example, or had 1/10 of $1, you'd be rich because that value would be so high compared to the amount. And that's why right now, because less than 1% of people are actually in Bitcoin. If we look at the market cap of Bitcoin, the market cap right now is at about 100 billion. What does that mean? That means if you take the cost of the Bitcoin and multiply it times the number of Bitcoins that are out there, which right now is about 16.1 million, that total is going to equal the market cap. And right now the market cap's sitting around 100 billion, and it was 1/10 of that just, at the beginning of the year, which is crazy. Because if we get another 10 times fold increase and we end up getting to $1 trillion market cap, guess what? At this point, we have a $100,000 Bitcoin. That's why it's so important that if this is going to happen, you want to kind of get in on the ground floor, which we still are, because Bitcoin is still in its infancy. Compared to the other cryptocurrencies too, Bitcoin is a runaway currency. It's got a few right behind it, not right behind it, but well behind it. Like number 2 fighting for the number 2 spot right now is Ethereum, which I think is at $300 per Ethereum. And then you have Bitcoin Cash, which was pumped recently by the South Koreans from $600 up to almost $2,500. And then it crashed down because they pump and dumped it. But this is like not anything like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is digital gold, and it looks like it's going to end up being digital gold. There are many institutions that actually are putting money into Bitcoin right now. There's actually a Bitcoin trust that's traded right now that I own as well. I own a few shares of that. It's stocks ticker symbol GBTC. And that, if you look at if you research, because I do all of my research before I invest, that trust is actually backed by NASDAQ. If you follow the paper trail back for the owners and who's behind it. So, and then a lot of speculation is that ETFs are going to start adopting Bitcoin and cryptocurrency ETFs. They're going to start trying to get approved. And also the next phase would be where Amazon, Walmart.com, eBay, these companies start accepting Bitcoin. If that happens, then you're going to see more parabolic growth in Bitcoin. If Amazon starts taking Bitcoin and you're invested in Bitcoin, you're going to be in a really good position. And the reason why the cryptocurrencies should be able, in my opinion, to do so well is because of the blockchain technology, which they say that to hack the Bitcoin network, you'd need about $89 billion to hack it for like 1 second. Or no, I'm sorry, to hack it one time. You'd need billions of dollars, because the way it works is the blockchain is just like it says, it's a chain of blocks that kind of build on each other. Ledgers, files that build on one another. So all of the different computers that are mining the Bitcoin and that have the Bitcoin have to agree on the transaction before the transaction takes place. And that's why the transactions take so long now. But, just like how when you used to have the Atari or the Commodore or the Nintendo Entertainment System, a game used to take forever to load, but now it loads in seconds. it's the same thing that's going to happen with Bitcoin. Because it's in its infancy, you have to have things that are, what are called forks have to happen over time. And those could be comparable to stock splits and things like that. And as these splits happen, you're going to notice that the speed is going to be faster for the currency exchanges and things like that. So why would we invest in Bitcoin? The reason why is because we want to take a long shot. We're not going to invest a high percentage of our money, but we're going to invest something, because if the way we do business online changes in 10 years, then it could potentially change to this. And if that happens, then we will make a lot of money, right? What are the benefits of cryptocurrency? Instead of using your bank to transfer money, which would leave you open to hacks and things like that, you can put your money that you want to spend online into an exchange it to a cryptocurrency, and then use that cryptocurrency online. Therefore, if I only have $50 in my cryptocurrency account, whether that gets hacked or what, you can only get that. Right now, if you were trying to send stuff from your bank account online, maybe somebody could hack into your bank account, but this allows you to completely separate that. Not only that, you're able to have what's called what I consider as digital gold, because the value of the cryptocurrency, because there's only 16.5 million in existence right now, and there's miners getting the rest at a certain percent or certain rate per year, and there's only going to be 21 million ever. Therefore, if we have 1/2 of one Bitcoin or 1/10 of one Bitcoin, that value of that Bitcoin has to be higher as the market cap increases. Therefore, if it would behoove us to have some now, if we want to take a risk, assuming that it's going to take off. So that's why we're considering investing in it. The last thing I want to say before closing is the exchanges that you can use. There's a lot of them out there and they're confusing. The main two that I want to recommend are Coinbase and GDAX. And I believe they're actually owned by the same company. But these two are the most upstanding. They've been around the longest. They actually have the most money invested in them. And they're backed by security and stuff like that, where you'll have to read up on exactly how they do the transfers and things like that, but I use Coinbase. And if you want to invest in Coinbase as well, I'll have a link in the description. Right now they have a special going where if you invest $100, you actually can get $10 for free. So if you want to put $100 into Bitcoin today, then you'll get $10 worth for free just by clicking that link that I have in the description below. So, you're literally getting a 10% gain right off the top, which is pretty cool. And I have when you click the link, it goes to it goes straight to Coinbase, and there's you'll see my business name and all that I operate under, and it'll say this person invited you. If you click yes, then all you'll have to do is say, hey, I want to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin after you set up your account, and you'll get $10 worth for free, and I'll get $10 worth for free. So it's a pretty good deal. But I do think that investing in Bitcoin is a smart idea now, because I think that you have to take some risk. You want to have a certain percentage of your money in something that could do very well. You also want to have safe investments. You don't really want to be putting all your money into cash or into just the savings account, because 30, 40, 50 years from now, I don't know about you, I'm in my mid 30s, but I want to retire, when I'm 50 years old and actually have a pretty good amount in the bank account. So we're kind of prepping for that now. You don't want to be going through the Internet of Things and the electronic age and all this and end up being in 2040 as a broke person. make moves today so that you can benefit yourself later. And whether that's investing in cryptocurrency, starting your own business, or what, just make sure that you're doing something out of the norm to try to generate wealth. It's going to behoove you in the long run. So we went over what a cryptocurrency is. We went over what the blockchain technology is, the way to attain the cryptocurrency, why we're investing in it, what we think that could happen in the long run. We're understanding that it is a risk, and understand that, like I said, you need to do your own research as well, because I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you exactly what to do with your money. So take this as entertainment value, as I said, but not as financial advice. But if you do invest in something that does really well later, you're obviously going to be glad you did, So if you can afford to invest in something that you believe in, then it would benefit you to do that, to try to get the reward. There's no way to get any reward in life without risk. Anything that has to do with pushing yourself forward involves taking a risk that you might go backwards. If you never want to go backwards, if you never want to go forward, just never take a risk. You can keep making that $20 an hour or whatever you're making. And if you're fine with that, do that, But if you want to take some moves so that you can be the average person and try to, attain wealth, because guess what? If Bitcoin takes off, there's going to be a lot of average people around the world that are going to be millionaires. And right now, like I said, it's the ground floor. There's less than 1% of people that are even in this right now. And every day it grows last couple of years, it's been growing by 10% a year. When you start getting mass adoption, Amazon just secured 2 domains for cryptocurrency domains. Now, we don't know if they did that because they're going to start accepting Bitcoin, or if they're doing that because they want to have those domains to keep others from using it. But if you research, they did just grab those 2 domains. There's also big hedge fund managers that said, hey, Bitcoin is coming to mutual funds and hedge funds next year. So, we are in a big time right now. Also, look at some of the stuff by McAfee, the guy that did the McAfee security that always pops up on your computer and annoys you. But that guy, he's big on Bitcoin as well, and thinks that it's the future. Bill Gates, same thing. There's a lot of naysayers. Diamond from Chase, I think he's Chase Bank CEO or something, and then also what's his name, Dave Ramsey. He's very against high risk stuff like Bitcoin. But you gotta think like, hey, this is an opportunity to take a long-term risk and get a long-term reward. The way I'm looking at it, personally, hey, if I buy 6, 7, 10 Bitcoins now, and in the beginning of the year, that's what I was thinking, and just hold them, because I'm not selling anything. I just buy and hold. And I might even buy some Ethereum and buy some Litecoin as well to diversify myself within crypto. But now I have those. So guess what? Those 6 Bitcoins, if they end up taking off, those 6 Bitcoins are forever going to be in my family. So you can buy, $100 worth, and forever that Bitcoin is in your family. You're talking about a shot for creating wealth, like actual riches. You know what I mean? So it's something to think about. But just remember to diversify yourself and always make smart decisions, not impulse decisions, and make decisions that you are going to believe in and be okay with in the future. And just keep remembering to always aim at legendary so you can land in success. I am Jay Lawson, and I'm out.